is being aided by record low interest rates. Joining me now live is the Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg. Treasurer, good morning. Thank you for joining me. How does Australia compare to the rest of the world?
Extremely well, Danica. We have actually outperformed all major advanced economies over the course of the last year. We saw the UK economy contract by around 10%, the Canadian economy by around 5%, US economy by more than 3%, yet here in Australia, our economy contracted by just 2.5%. And today's announcement from the International Monetary Fund of a full percentage point increase in Australia's expected GDP growth to 4.5% in 2021 is another proof point of our strong economic recovery. It comes off the back of those lower unemployment numbers, which saw the unemployment rate fall to 5.8%. Let's not forget the Treasury thought at one point during the height of this pandemic that the unemployment rate could reach as high as 15%, which would mean more than 2 million unemployed. And to see that unemployment rate come down, to see Australia maintain its AAA credit rating, consumer and business confidence to get back to where it was pre-pandemic, and business investment to increase off the back of government incentives is again another very positive sign of how well the Australian economy is performing in the face of this biggest economic shock since the Great Depression.
The IMF warns that the biggest risk to economic recovery is the pandemic and has warned countries not to pull stimulus too soon. JobKeeper just ended here. Is that a major risk to the economy powering ahead?
Well, actually, the numbers from the IMF factor in the end of JobKeeper. It was always a temporary program. We always said that it would be an emergency payment. Initially, it was for 6 months. We extended it for a full year. We tapered it off. We created a two-tiered payment. And it saved, according to the Reserve Bank of Australia and Treasury, more than 700,000 jobs. So it was a very successful program, supporting more than 3.6 million Australians at its peak. But now we move to the next stage of our economic recovery, and we've rolled out targeted programs for the aviation and tourism sector, and those half-price tickets, Danica, have been going off like hotcakes. We've seen more than 300,000 sold already. We're providing specific support to the arts sector for grants for them to host live events, as well as the tax cuts that are flowing through, the business investment incentives, the infrastructure programs that we've brought forward, the 340,000 new training places, all measures that we announced in last year's budget, which will continue to support the economy long after JobKeeper has ended.
The IMF also says that a faster vaccine rollout could speed up economic recovery. Do you concede that our economy could bounce back quicker if we reached our jab targets?
Well, Australia's situation in terms of the virus is quite different to other nations. As you know, we've been able to successfully suppress the virus. Yes, we've had outbreaks, and that's led to localised lockdowns and last year statewide lockdowns, but we've done so much better than other countries. Now, we've already seen more than 850,000 people get the jab. We've got the domestic sovereign capability with CSL to produce the AstraZeneca vaccine. That's going to see more supply, which of course will see more distribution. So the vaccine rollout is gaining momentum, but you want to distinguish about the situation Australia finds itself compared to, for example, the US and the UK, where the virus ran rampant. And you can see that in the numbers. I mean, Australia tragically has lost 35 people for every 1 million persons in our population to the COVID virus, whereas in Canada it's more than 500 per million of population. In the US it's more than 1,500. So Australia has outperformed on both the health and the economic front, and that's something that more than 25 million Australians can be very, very proud of.
All right, just finally, Treasurer, on the New Zealand-Australia travel bubble announced yesterday, there are fears that it will not give us that burn that we were hoping for, as people coming over will likely stay with family and friends. Are there tourism dollars going to go where it is most needed?
Absolutely, and we've seen that in the pre-pandemic numbers, with more than $1.5 billion injected into the Australian economy from New Zealand tourists. This is our busiest international route, more than 7 million people travelling on it a year pre-COVID. And that's good news for the economy that we've now got this trans-Tasman bubble, and it's a credit to both countries in how they've managed the virus. So I'm confident, and you've seen Qantas announce that they'll ramp up to more than 120 flights a week with their Jetstar services as well. You've seen Air New Zealand making announcements about their number of flights as well. So I'm confident that this will provide a boost to both the New Zealand and the Australian economies and to the tourism sectors at a time when they absolutely need it.
Good to hear. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg, thank you for joining me this morning.
My pleasure.